Bulls draft board, why that is. Also, another prospect that a lot of Bulls fans like in CMB is falling down the draft boards as well. We're going to talk about it all and more right after this.
You are now tuned in to Chicago Bulls Central, hosted by Haize, your number one spot for all things Chicago Bulls.
What's going on, Bulls fans? Welcome to another episode of Chicago Bulls Central, your number one spot for everything Chicago Bulls related. I'm the host there, Haize, but more importantly, you guys can follow the channel at Bulls Central Pod on every social media platform we happen to be on. With that said, let's go and get into this content for today, y'all. It's been a minute since I've been on this side of the studio for this show. So that lets you know something's going on. I have to look at my computer over there, maybe something going on with it. But we are back. And as we were talking about the last time we tried to do this stream, is that it seems like Rasheer Fleming is not on the Chicago Bulls board. And why is that, right? That's a huge question I think a lot of Bulls fans would have, is why Rasheer Fleming is not on the Bulls board. Now, as some people have pointed out, maybe it is smoke screening by the Bulls. Maybe it's that. But I think it's more than that. When you look at the fact that not only did the Bulls not set a meeting at the Combine with Rasheer Fleming, even though that's not the end-all be-all, the Bulls have drafted players they haven't even met with before, so that's not always like the end-all be-all or a great indication on exactly who's on the Bulls board. But I think you also have to look at players that are around, how players are communicated around the league. And Rasheer Fleming is not on many people's boards in that lottery. Actually, a lot of people are starting to have, and it looks like Rasheer Fleming could actually fall out of the lottery in this draft, right? And so why is that? What is going on with Rasheer Fleming to where it could be causing some type of trepidation or doubt around what he can be? And I think the only thing I could think of is it's a mixture between the age and the fact that, like, not having a clear position. Like, I look at Rasheer Fleming that he can be either a 4 or 5, right? Now, there is a legitimate chance that his best position ends up being 5. And at that point, are you confident in starting a 6'9" player with a 7'5" wingspan at your 5? And I think that's the question that a lot of Bulls, the Bulls and a lot of teams are maybe asking themselves in regards to Rasheer Fleming, is he the best bet? If you're going to go center in this draft and defensive-minded center, is Rasheer Fleming the best use of those assets? And that's where I think some of this is coming from. But at the same time, the Bulls have never been a team that's been hesitant to take or to play smaller players or play small ball in general. Maybe it's a sign, an indication that that's not what they want to do anymore. They don't want that to be their identity as a team that is playing small. Maybe they want some legit size there. Or maybe they're just going to have guys higher on their board overall. But Rasheer Fleming not being on the Chicago Bulls board, if he's really not, it raises questions. Because to me, Rasheer Fleming feels like, regardless of what his position is, the defense, the rebounding, the ability to stretch the floor, the fact that he is also a player that doesn't need to be ball dominant to be effective, right? All those things are there with Rasheer Fleming. And so, you know, in me watching his tape, I could see him being the 4 perfectly fine. I don't think he's like slow-footed or anything like that to where he can't play the 4. That's my personal feeling on that. But maybe I'm wrong. Right? And so, you know, ultimately, I know that we don't have a lot of faith in the Bulls scouting department. We don't have a lot of faith in the Bulls in general right now. And so when you see a player like Rasheer Fleming that looks like the perfect mate with Modest Buzelis one way or another, maybe there's that. Maybe it's the Bulls don't want to play Modest at the 3, right? If you take Rasheer Fleming and he ends up being a 4 over a 5, then you're committing yourself to playing Modest at the 3. Maybe the Bulls don't feel confident about that. But I think overall in this draft, just to see the way that it looks like Rasheer is falling is a huge surprise overall. Like, it's a major surprise to me. I know it's been a major surprise to some other people that I've talked about as well that are in that draft process. And I don't know. There's always, you know what it is too? There's always players that end up falling, or a player in almost every draft that, whether it be overthinking or whatever it is, they end up falling. And then at the end of it, people look back and are like, hey, how did he fall that far, right? Modest was that last year. A lot of teams, because of him going to the G League Ignite, that not really doing a lot to develop him, whatever it was, he fell. And I think a lot of teams now are looking back at that like, how the hell did we let a player like that fall? What went wrong in our evaluation to where we allowed that player to fall? So, it can be a mixture of a lot of different things, right? I want to be clear there. But to me, Rasheer Fleming does not seem like a player that I'm worried about being a bust. Now, I could say maybe he doesn't have the star level upside, right? Maybe that's it. Maybe it's not. Maybe it's that he's not going to be a star, and maybe they see some other players that having more star level upside. But hey, it's just weird to me. Frank Sinatra says Rasheer got to be on there. If it's not, shit's crazy. Hey, crazier things have happened. Was wondering what happened. Bad audio last episode. Some people said the audio sounded fine, but the video was wonky. I don't know what's going on over there. What's the word for them? It's hot as hell out here, bro. It is hot. Yeah, Rasheer falling is really surprising. Feels like a perfect guy for Giddy Billy offense. It does. Like I said, the things that I could really look at and say may cause that are A, position, B, maybe a reluctance to move Modest, because that would be moving Modest to the 3. And so maybe those are the things, and just the fact of age. Even though he's not like one of the older seniors that's like coming to the league at like 22, 23 years old, he is older than some of the guys that are reportedly passing him up on the draft board. So maybe it's that too. But I just think that Rasheer Fleming is going to be one of those guys that a team's going to look back on. A lot of teams potentially could look back on as like, hey, why didn't we take this 21-year-old 6'9" power forward center with the 7'5" wingspan that can shoot the 3 ball, that is an amazing shot blocker, he's a solid rebounder, and he can space the floor? Why didn't we take that guy? That's what it's going to feel like. TJ says, did Cedric Coward end up committing? I've seen videos and interviews of him at the combine. Yeah, I don't think he's made a decision yet, but I don't think he's going to go back. I don't think he's going to go back to college. When you go from being projected as a second-round pick to now teams are telling you they'll take you in the lottery, and you're already an older. Keep in mind, Cedric Coward is an older player in this draft. You're already older. I think you go ahead and you just enter the draft. He'll be 22 his rookie season. I think he's going to go ahead and enter. A lot of mocks have him slated to go anywhere between like as high as 10 all the way down to like 15, 16. Keep in mind, he was projected before the draft combine to go in the second round, early second round. So he's seen quite a bit of a leap as far as in his draft stock and status. So I think that's what it comes down to. On Locked On Bulls, you guys talked about Kuminga being more ball dominant to work. On a counterpoint, P. Will and his passiveness, deferring is the complete opposite. Maybe that helped others step up. Well, no. So passiveness and needing to be ball dominant are different. You can be aggressive without needing to be ball dominant. So I don't think that that's those two things aren't similar, right? So being passive and being ball dominant are different, because there's some people that just need the ball in the hands that also aren't necessarily aggressive scorers. So I think those are different things, Rob, but that's just my personal opinion. P. Will better step up this year or be efficient in small usage. I don't see it for P. Will. I mean, we say that every year for P. Will, and it just doesn't happen. Doesn't happen. Kappa says, I want the Bulls to take a center just because it's time to move on from Vooch. Well, I mean, yeah, that's kind of what we're talking about here, bro. Where do you think Modest is better at, small forward or power forward? I mean, he only played power forward last year, so I can't really judge that. I do think his ability to dribble and pass could make him a small forward, but you got to be able to stretch the floor some. You got to be able to, he has to get, and not even just, and by stretch the floor, I don't even just mean 3. Modest Buzelis, everything was either 3-point shots or at the rim. He has to gain a mid-range jump shot. He has to gain a consistent 3-point shot as well. And I think until those things happen, it's going to kind of be hard to see him move to the 3 like full time. But I mean, if you're 4 shooting 3s, then maybe you don't need that as much, right? We got Rob in the building who says Kerr did want Kuminga to shoot more 3s. I saw an article. Probably did. I saw a mock draft name I'm familiar with up from the Chicago Bulls, Alex Tui. Although I'm only watching from a distance, he looks like he is having a good combine. He is having a good combine. He's definitely having a good combine. The biggest move I see the Bulls happening is they get one of the best centers and then announce, hey, guys, Modest is playing center for this. That's hilarious. Great question. This transitions us to another player that's falling in this draft. If Queen falls, do you take him or Serber? That's a great question, right? And I think that when you're looking at Thomas Sorber or you're looking at Derik Queen, they're two really opposite ends of the spectrum, right? Derik Queen is a ball dominant center that can pass, that isn't an above the rim. Like he's not I think he only registered less than a 30-foot vertical, which is terrible. But again, but we know what he can do. And sometimes the measurables in the tank, it just doesn't matter. When you watch Derik Queen play basketball, Derik Queen can play basketball. He's tough, all that type of stuff. The defensive upside is going to leave a lot to be desired. Thomas Sorber on the other side of things, defense, shot blocking, really good rebound percentage, really good block percentages as well. No slouch offensively either, can still probably get you about 12 to 15 in the NBA for sure. But Derik Queen is also falling in this draft. And considering the NCAA tournament that he had, and for those that aren't in the Discord server, you should definitely join it. We have some great conversations in there. But I said in the Discord server when the tournament was going on, I said there's no way, because somebody was like, Derik Queen's going to go in the top 5. I said there's no way Derik Queen goes in the top 5. And they're like, you're crazy, Haize. Look at how he's playing now. I'm like, yeah, I get that. But once people have the time to really kind of break apart his game, they're gonna come up with things that are gonna be concerning. A, he's not hugely athletic. He's not overly fast. He doesn't have a crazy wingspan. He is short for the center position, right? All those things are gonna make teams think themselves out of Derik Queen. But like I said before, sometimes it's not about those combine measurables. It's not about how fast you run, how high you jump. It's about you going out there and being a dog. And that's what Derik Queen is. And I think he is going to fall in this draft. For anybody that thought he was going to be like a top 5, top 6 pick, he's probably going to go around between 10 and 12 or 13. That's probably where he's going to go in this draft. And if he's on the board when the Chicago Bulls are there, and Sorber, who's also probably going to be on the board, are both there, that's going to introduce a really tough question, because do the Bulls go upside? Because Derik Queen, I would say, has more upside than Thomas Sorber because of his ability offensively as a passer and all those type of things. But then do you go Sorber, who kind of fits more of what you have, and his defense, it can absolutely help bring so much of what you need to this team while also being a player that can play in a more up-tempo offense. He also can, like I said, he has that 10 to 12 footer. He's going to have to work on the 15 to 18 portion of it, but he does have a 10 to 12 footer as well. And like I said, Thomas Sorber to me is a guy that you look at and you say this. He has post moves as well, right? He has some back to the basket moves. He can be your defensive anchor. And I say this, unless you plan on changing one of Josh Giddey or Kobe White, Thomas Sorber is the better pick for you. If you do at some point plan on moving on, if you know you're not going to re-sign Kobe White, and you're going to get a shooting guard in here who can do more catch and shoot, more off the dribble type things, those type of things. If that's what you're going to do, then Derik Queen's the pick, because Derik Queen needs the ball in his hands so much. I don't know if you have Kobe and Giddey, who already both have to have the ball in their hands, and they figured out a decent balance, but they have to have the ball in their hands to drive and create, and that's where they're best at. Derik Queen had a usage rate of 26% in college. In the NBA, that will put him at a usage rate higher than Jokic. So I think that's something that you have to look at there, right? Is the balance of the team and how you plan to build this thing out going forward. So I like, again, if you're not moving off of Giddey or Kobe, Sorber's the pick. If you plan on moving off of one of them, Derik Queen's the pick if they're both on the board to me. That's just my personal opinion. That's just my opinion on how I see that. I like Queen out of Maryland. And there's a lot to like about Derik Queen. A lot to like about Derik Queen. Do you think Thomas Sorber can develop a 3-point shot? Man, that is a great question, and I would probably say no. And I don't think you need him to develop a 3-point shot. What I want him to do is I want Derik Queen to be solid 15 to 18 footer. If you can do that, that's a 3-point shot for him, right? And I also think a nice thing about Thomas Sorber as well is that when you factor in how many steals he gets, how many blocks he gets, you figure in all that, and the fact that he doesn't foul a lot, man, I think that he could be huge for the Bulls defense. Another thing, I forget his name, tweeted that Washington and Portland were one ping pong ball value, whatever was written on, away from getting the top pick, which is way closer than the Bulls. Exactly. Hayes, do you take voice notes through email? I'm trying to find out why some of the mailback calls got good mic quality. No, I mean, I do. If you want to send it that way, you can. But the only person who sends voice notes over email is Brian. Everybody else sends just calls into the line. So in the case Queen or Serber are both there at 11, do you try the Vooch and Portland pick for 11 trade? You try to come up on Locked on Bulls or get Queen and Sorber? Oh, well, no. So that thing I came up with was to trade up. You don't get an additional pick. So that's not what's going to happen. So no, I don't think you get Queen and Sorber. I don't think that will work at all. What big man would you take later on in the draft when you pick a wing at 12? I mean, then you'd be going in the second round. We don't have a pick later in that. And so if you're talking about second round, you're looking at Rocco, you're looking at Maximine Renaud, who I think Maxime has a chance to really go in towards the end of the first round as well. So I think if you need a big, you take a big in the first round, because I don't know. The Bulls don't pick to the 45th pick in the second round. So I don't know if the quality bigs that still could go there in the second round are going to be there. Ben Golliver had tweeted, if the Wizards had a 1 on the last ball, they win. If it was a 6, Portland wins the lottery. Hey, I mean, it is what it is there. It is what it is. Hayes, if it wasn't for you, I wouldn't know any upcoming good players in the draft. I'd be out of tune with college basketball in the draft. Hey, that's the job that I have here. And I've taken that with a huge responsibility. Not everybody has time to watch a lot of college basketball, right? So that's kind of my job, so that people don't just know whoever the media is talking about. You don't need all centers to shoot threes, especially if they are better at other things. Agreed. 100% agree with you there. I wish my boy P. Will would just be a man and hoop. Listen, it would help a lot. It would help a lot if P. Will turned into that. Top offensive guys with less defense for me are Queen and Wolf. If you want more defense, go Sorber, whoever is the guy that has both sides game that best fits. I can feel where you're coming from there. I think Bulls should take Dink Pate in the second round. And so I haven't so I'm going to start my second round analysis next week. So be on the lookout for that. What you think of Hanson Yang in the second round? Seemed to have some great post moves and where to be on offense and a little playmaking. Yeah, listen, the thing I think about it is this. Most of the bigs that are slated to go in the second round, I don't think have starting level upside. I just don't. Even Maxime Renaud, right? I love him, but to me, it's he screams bench big. And listen, you never know how players are gonna progress. I'm not here to put a cap on players, but it just doesn't feel like a lot of the bigs in the second round have starting level potential. There's definitely some project centers in the late first and second rounds. Definitely. Yo, Hayes, aka Aaron, I don't look nothing like that dude. We don't look nothing alike. Dink, I bet Modest will vouch for playing with him. Don't always assume that. Sometimes you don't like who you play with. But the other guy that's kind of falling in the draft that I want to talk about real quick before we get up out of here is Colin Murray Boyles. Now, for those that watch my draft analysis on Colin Murray Boyles, I'm not high on the kid. I think when you look at him, he's one of the people that were hurt the most by this draft combine. When you look at people who are falling the most, it's him. He is falling the most in this draft combine because of it's the lack of athleticism that are there. That's definitely contributing to his fall. The lack of athleticism, the lack of shooting is not there at all, right? He missed on wide open shots, and that's bad. Now, the thing with Colin Murray Boyles is that I do think he has defensive player of the year potential. I think he has that, absolutely. I'm going to be clear there. I think the kid has defensive player of the year potential out the wazoo. I just want to be very clear on that. I think he can be that level of player. But do you take that at 12? And I think that's what a lot of teams are asking in the lottery, because the thing is that it could work out. He can end up being one of those guys, like he's gotten comparisons to Draymond Green. Maybe he does end up hitting that. Maybe he's that guy, right? But he has the huge potential to be a bust as well. And if he ends up being a bust, what have you really gotten out of it? Not very much. And so I think that's the thing that you have to look at with this. And that's why Colin Murray Boyles is falling. I know a lot of people really love him. A lot of people thought he would be good for the Bulls as far as a wing. He's 6'6". So we're talking about shooting guard, small forward size with a center, not even a power. People are like power. He doesn't have a power forward game. He's way too slow. His rotations out on the pick and roll are bad. His advanced shooting numbers are terrible. He's not a threat to stretch the floor at all. He has to be next to the rim. He has to be ball dominant. He had we talked about Derik Queen's usage rate being high. Colin Murray-Boyles had a offensive rating that high as well, a usage rate that high as well. But he didn't have nearly the scoring numbers that Derik Queen did. He's a high usage, low production player on offense. And the thing that he has that he can hang his hat on is that he projects to be an amazing defender. But even then, the physicality that he played with, that he got by with in college, because he's able to outmuscle and just be stronger than a lot of people, isn't really happening. So I think you factor into all those things, man. Yeah, it's going to be really tough for Colin Murray-Boyles. I said it before. I can absolutely see him falling out of the lottery early. Now, I mean, even much more with that. So it seemed like he had a better day today, which is good. Shooting today in drills, he shot 73% from mid-range and 48% from the side on the three-point line. That's much better. Much better. Good. But it's still huge concerns there. And usually as well, the thing with Colin Murray-Boyles, that's another thing you have to watch offensively, is that he has a low release point. His shot is slow to get off. He can't get it off really quickly. And usually that's fine for power forwards or centers because they have the height. At 6'6", I see a lot of blocks in the future for Colin Murray-Boyles. I'm sorry, him getting blocked, not him getting him blocking people, him getting blocked. And that's what I think is going to be the problem when it comes down to it. I think that's going to be the problem, man. Sounds like no. See, the difference is that Colin Murray-Boyles actually does play aggressively. I want to be clear here. He plays aggressively. P. Will is flower power. That's a big difference between the two players. I wish they had more 5-on-5s at the combine on TV. I know, right? They only show so much of it. Only reason I like CMB here is if the Sky Draft Chloe Kitts. What? Got shit to do with the Bulls. Hey, Haize, for the Bulls' second-round pick, even though he is injured, I think Johnny Broom is worth the look. In the second round, definitely. If he's there in the second round, absolutely. Absolutely, you take it. You take it, I think, for sure in the second round. But I think things are just this draft process is going to be really interesting to watch for the Chicago Bulls because things can go really, really well for them. Things can go left, man. We'll see. But I think overall, the Bulls have a really good chance and opportunity here to get them somebody that's going to help them. And I think that's the thing that really stands out to me the most is that they have a really good chance to get a really good player in here. They just got to go about doing it, man. And we'll see. We shall see. Hovind says, Sorber and Fleming so far my favorite to be picked at 12. We need a legit big. Newell is still on my list, but again, not sure about him yet. Fair. Definitely fair. The fact that more guys or names people bring up in this draft is also a good thing. We know there are guys for sure. We can't all be wrong. We'll see. We shall see. But all right, y'all, thank you guys for tuning in, man. I appreciate y'all so much for sticking it out and hanging out with your boy. Make sure you're following us at Bull Central Pod. You send us any feedback, questions, comments, concerns, bullcentralpod@gmail.com. Lastly, if you want to leave a text message and or voicemail for the mailbag, the number to do so, 773-270-2799. We're the number one spot for everything Chicago Bulls related. And I'll catch you guys on the next one. Love you guys. Go Bulls. See red, y'all. Peace.
This has been a presentation of the Break Media.